Yes. So I'm going to put this on. Okay. You're muted right now. Okay. All right. When you're ready to go, just look that switch. Okay. And I'm watching to make sure. All right. If you put it to the waistband, usually works well. Just want to put it someplace where it's not going to fall on the floor and drag you. There we go. Okay, just remember that to flip the switch. There. Oh. I'll remind you if you don't. Okay.
I should make sure my phone's up yet.
Yes, we want to make sure that we check. 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Check. 1, 2. Do me a favor, Sibylla.
Yes.
Turn the pack on and just give me a little like check. I want to just make sure you're coming through well. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay. Because the first session. The first session didn't go. The second session we had to use that computer, and the microphone is built in to the camera, so that's over there, and the speakers are here. How well do you think the audio?
Wah, wah, wah.
So I was able to crank up the audio on the recording, but you can't garbage in, garbage out. So so it's good to be able to have quality audio. That's really important. So because the information that we're conveying is important. So and let's see here. Oh yeah. We got a problem. All right. It's not supported. So, all right. Well, a good thing I checked. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull it up in a browser window, and I'll just switch over.
Are you on Mozilla? Many universities use Mozilla doesn't work both through Google Chrome.
I'm using Google Chrome. No, it's not the browser. It's the Webinar Jam interface.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't like that video format, but it's fine. I'll pull it up directly through Chrome, and that won't be a problem. But it's nice because I can usually play it like right within the interface, and then we could just seamlessly switch back and forth between the speakers and the and as you can see, that's what will be seen on Facebook. So
you want to try it to make sure you got the link? Or?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up in my email right now.
It'll be down the bottom at my signature.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's the one as a line of credit.
Yep. Just putting a lot of pressure on the Wi-Fi here. Alrighty, so this.
This is a producing statistic. Women are 2 to 3 times more likely to die of bypass surgery.
Yeah, that's a part of it is that the women's parts are much smaller, and the equipment that's designed for heart surgery is more for men's hearts. Yeah, It's true. So, yeah, that's why women are very often misdiagnosed because they have different symptoms. Yeah. Yep. Crazy, right? Mm-hmm. I knew a woman who had a heart attack. She just fell asleep. She just fell asleep. She didn't, and when she woke up, she was in the hospital, and they said, "Yeah, you had a heart attack." Yeah, and that's what anytime a woman has any kind of chest pain at all, you're going to the hospital.
But it seems like that's not even one of the main.
I know. I know.
It's plain indigestion and nausea.
Yeah. Okay, so now we got that, and it's that, and go there. Liz?
That's it.
There you go.
Okay.
We're all set. So, yeah, so when it's time to send it, I just switch over. I share my desktop, and then I can show that. So, and they'll see it on on Facebook and the recording as well. So, we're good to go. Hey, how are you? So, Joe, okay, welcome, and Anne. Yes. And Winnie. Okay, we still got a few minutes. Hopefully, our comrades. Hey, how you doing, Matt?
Good, how are you?
Very well, thanks. All right. Where did you get that brochure, Winnie?
From Valley.
Ah.
I went to like a Thrive event last night.
Uh-huh.
I'm not familiar with that. They have a program that's geared towards women.
Oh, yes.
It was fabulous. And last night they had, so it was almost like an exposition.
Uh-huh.
They had like various stations. Some were vendors, and they had, and some were hospital, like cardiac, gastro, all the different sort of medicine types of Red Cross, World Screen. But the vendors, and then they had, like it was like Portobello.
Uh-huh.
It was like a cocktail hour. They said,
Was that in Oakland?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Cool.
then they had prize. I actually won a prize.
Oh, good for you. What did you win?
I won a granola bits with different, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I was there, but I probably wouldn't like it. But it was amazing. There were 300 women
Oh, cool.
there. And they were free.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, Valley's got some awesome resources. I'm not surprised. And then every time I turn around, they've got a new satellite office somewhere. And they got one in like ShopRite in Oakland now. It's like they're everywhere. Yeah.
Little shop right there.
Yeah.
And
It's
we're going
wild.
up that Valley Health.
Uh-huh.
In Mala. So now that's the big push.
Uh-huh.
All kinds of programs to try to.
Well, there's obviously there's a public who's hungry for knowledge. So,
And hungry for age.
well, yeah.
Longevity is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, let's see. Okay. Well, it's 12:30. Hi. So we're gonna get started. So, and of course our speaker just like ran out and took a phone call. So, I'll take this opportunity to just like welcome you back. Welcome back. And I'm curious. How are you guys enjoying the content so far? Is this valuable to you?
Sure.
Would you do this again?
Absolutely.
Having been through it, yeah, I mean, for new people, I think it would be very valuable to hear similar content again. But things are always changing. I mean,
We do an advanced version.
yeah,
Well, what I would really love for you guys to do for us is when this class is done, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because the only way that we can make stuff better is by asking the people who actually came and attended what they thought, and to learn how we could potentially improve this and make this the most valuable tool it can possibly be. Without further ado, I'm going to welcome you to the 5th class in this series. And so today's subject is to move or not to move. And the whole idea behind this session is that we hit a time in our lives when the places where we live no longer suit us for whatever reason. When you're young and you get your first home, right? And then you get like you're in a 1-bedroom apartment, and then you have kids, and then you're like, well, honey, we gotta get us a bigger house, right? And so, but there always comes a time when you have to start making some decisions. Does this environment suit us? Is it time to maybe look at something different? And so as we get older, those decisions become a little more difficult because we have to think about, well, a lot of us think about our kids, right? We think about what are we going to do with their stuff? And we talked a lot about that in the last session. What do you do with your stuff? But there's also, your needs. So, we're so used to focusing on the needs of others. And there comes a time when, maybe we got to be a little more selfish and do things that make more sense for us as people. And there are a lot of options out there that many people of which many people are not aware. So today's session is an opportunity to look at where you are now and how well it suits you presently, and under the circumstances, what would be the smartest move for you, which isn't always the move that you favor, right? Because there's so much emotion connected with where we live. So we're going to look at your home as real estate, okay? Its value to you and its value in the marketplace, and the kinds of things you should take into consideration before you make a move. And the next segment will be more about what you can do in your current situation that you might not have thought of, and whether or not your current situation even makes sense. Because most people, we find, want to stay home. They don't want to go someplace else. They want to age or thrive in place, right? So we're going to talk about that as well. And lastly, we're going to talk about some ideas for how to finance the decisions that we make, because very often, we're confronted with a pretty big bill when it comes to where do we go next. So we're going to talk about some ideas for how to actually finance what your next move could potentially be, and if it makes sense. And you may be surprised at the answers. So I'm going to start by introducing my friend and colleague, Sibylla Frank. Hey guys. And she's going to talk about real estate. So.
So I am a realtor at Sotheby's International.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sibylla, is your microphone on? You rock.
So as I said, we're going to talk about the home sale, the non-sale, and what to do. I've just given you a little handout to make it kind of easy and straightforward. And the first part, I really don't want to go into much, but it's just the home selling process of what it entails. And the first one I know you've all spoken about in the last session is decluttering first and foremost. I always find for any resident who has lived in a home for a length of a time, it's the hardest thing to do. And I usually advise clients, take a year to get that house decluttered. Don't try to do it overnight, it's overwhelming. Because if you've lived in a home for 20 years, guess what? You got 20 years of stuff you've got to go through. It's hard. Obviously choose the right real estate agent. Then you got to complete all the listing paperwork that's coming up. Have there been any updates made to your home, yes or not? And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. Professional pictures will be taken. Obviously, there'll be a lockbox on your property. These are all just little things, just so that when they do sell houses, what's going to happen? What are all these things that are, people are going to come to your house? There's going to be brokers open. There's going to be open houses on Sundays. So obviously, your home has to look perfect, right? You're going to be receiving reviews and offers, and that's what you go over with your realtor. If you accept an offer, then it goes through attorney review. That usually is said 3 days. I have very rarely seen a 3-day attorney review. It usually comes long because then there's one thing back and forth, and each time the response comes back from an attorney to the other attorney, and start those 3 days again. So it can drag out a little bit. An inspection period. This is actually one of the things I want to talk about as well because it can be a lot less stressful if you have an inspection on your home on your listing. I know it's a cost, but it can be a life-saving cost because you know what's going to come. Appraisal, survey, and final mortgage commitment, those are all things that need to be done. And then find a moving company, another big, kind of headache that you have to take care of. And getting the certificate of continued occupancy with what we call COO is very important. And you can always call your town to set that up. Each town has different rules and regulations of what you need to have that COO. So it's very hard when people ask me, well, what do I need in my town? Well, every town is unfortunately different. And they change their rules. It's always best to call the town. And then obviously the final walkthrough, and then you go to the closing. So that's just that little process of how that works and what happens, and those are the steps that you're going through. So my biggest thing is putting that house on the market is an emotional thing. It's your home. You love it. You've lived in it for how long have you lived in your home?
I'm only there about 2 years.
Okay, so you're a newcomer to your home. How long have you been in your home?
24.
24.
17.
So you're attached to it, right? Not you. We're going to leave you. But even after 2 years, you may be attached to it. It's your home. You have put your mark on it. Right? This is what you feel comfortable with. Unfortunately, when you put a house on the market, it has to lose that human touch. It has to become presentable to a mass market that may not love your little doilies and your little pictures and the cat hair in the corner and all those other wonderful things that we accumulate in a home. So I always tell clients, put your expectations set them correctly. Doesn't matter what you want or you feel, it matters what the market wants and what the current buyers want. So it's always kind of depersonalizing a home is one of the biggest things that we do with the market. And to get that biggest response. And it's hard because we want to still live in a home, right? One of the biggest things is, as I said, get an inspection done. It's a couple $100. I know it's not cheap, but if you have a home inspection done before putting your home on the market, the biggest pitfall should already be clear to you by that home inspector. Right? And any good realtor will have home inspectors for you that you can contact. Some of the biggest issues right now in modern times are oil tanks. Both of those things, not. So if it's an above ground oil tank that's in your home being used, you're fine. That's not a problem if it's in your basement. If it's in the ground, even if it is being used, many attorneys will not allow their clients to close. Because what has changed over the last few years is the environmental laws for oil tanks. So even though when you bought your property 20 years ago, that oil tank, not a big deal. Great. It works. We're using it, right? There were no environmental laws. Now the ground has to be tested. It has to make sure that the ground is clean, and so on, and so on, and so on. So a big thing that many homeowners will do before sale is have that registration. This way, that's a huge pitfall that won't hold up the process of selling a home. If there's an oil tank in the home or in the ground of the property that is in disuse, it definitely should be removed before, because it's just a huge headache otherwise. Asbestos removal. All of our homes have asbestos in it. Floor tiles. Wouldn't think that they may contain asbestos. Many of them are hidden under other floors. So if they're not being touched, it's okay. Wrapping in the pipes, asbestos, is a big problem. Again, attorneys are going to say, we're going to have that removed rather than, continue with sale, and then we should continue once that has been remedied. And that always falls on the homeowner to do so. If you're in an area where there's septic tanks, you have to show proof that you've maintained it, that they're in good use. The size of the septic tanks today actually determines how many rooms you put in bedrooms in the home. So, yeah. So if you have a septic tank that's this big, and you're going to sell that property, and you say, oh, yeah, I don't have 10 rooms, I want to make it bigger. Sorry, guys, you have to get a septic tank. If you have well water, again, that needs to be proven that it's in good standing, it's good use. Number two, the wiring in the house. If it's an older house, what kind of wiring does it have? If there is visible novelty, then that should be removed. And those are the kind of things I feel that homeowners should focus on before putting the house on the market, rather than going in and saying, I want to renovate the kitchen. It's going to look so much nicer. Yes, it is. Spend $20,000 on the kitchen, you may be able to increase your price by $30,000 to $40,000 to sell the home. Great. Now you love cherry cabinets and dark countertops. And that's what you're going to choose because you like them, right? Guess what? It's not in right now. You've just eliminated about half the potential clients because they're going to come in and look at that kitchen and say, yeah, those are not the telephone cabinets I want. Yeah, and it's so funny that people love to renovate and update, and it's important to do that and maintain it. But if your home has outdated cabinets and an outdated kitchen, a much smarter thing would be, it's going to cost me $20,000 to renovate, let me just bring the house down to $20,000 market value. And then a new person can renovate it. But if you do want to renovate it, then find out what the trend is and what is selling right now. It's white cabinets and, big countertops, granite or whatever. It can change in 2 years, we don't know. But then renovate as to what the market dictates, not to what you want. Do you want to live in a home when you are renovating for the last 6 months before you put it on the market? Is that something you want to do? Are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to have that constant in and out of people coming through your home and actually trying to enjoy the last 6 months in your home? So it's a whole balance that I think each homeowner has to kind of be comfortable with and say, I want to do this is fine, not a problem, or like, no, I don't want to do this. I would prefer to bring down the market price and still live comfortably before I move out. Now there are new buyers on the market, they don't want to renovate anything, they want to come into a fully renovated home. There's a large price, absolutely. There are those who want to put their own mark on it And usually the kitchen is the place where people want to put their own mark on it. Right? If you have really outdated bathrooms with purplish, greenish toilets, I don't know if you remember those colors that we used to have. Wonderful colors, right?
Harvest Gold was a favorite of mine.
Maybe that's a good idea to get white ones, right? And exchange that and maybe update the tiles to make it look nice. That's definitely doable, but then again, neutral colors. Don't go into those, oh, I want hot pink on the wall, or I want little birdies flying, through my bathtub. It should then be something that's much more neutral, where people can still add their own stamp to it when they're purchasing, in the sense of they can find their color scheme of towels they want to put in, or whatever it may be, little things. It's so difficult to foresee what a client wants when purchasing, and if you become too personal when renovating, you're not going to be able to sell it for the value that you think you have increased it by, because you're narrowing down the market of people you want to buy. So a good idea would be looking at some of those flip or flop home things, Property Brothers. I have no idea what they're all called. And see what's trending. What are they putting in those homes that they're flipping? What's trending right now? That will give you a good idea of what's going on, what would be a good idea, if you so desire to do that. So, as I said, having a home inspection done before sale is a great idea. I gave you a flood zone lookup. Flood zones have changed dramatically over the last 10 years. What used to not be a flood zone may now be a flood zone, and so on. So the best thing you can do is also just go to your town and say, I live here, what zone am I in? And they have to tell you. A lot of towns are updating the flood zones as we speak, from last year, this year, and next year still. Again, the septic systems, the age, the type has to be disclosed and maintained. No house with a cesspool in New Jersey can be sold anymore. They still do exist. So a cesspool is an open area on the property, somewhere in the back of the property, that has underneath rubble or whatever, and it just literally just exists.
Ew.
Lead paint. Any home that was built before 1978 may contain lead paint. You will, as a homeowner, be required to fill out this whole 15-page thing, and you have to disclose if you have any knowledge of lead paint, yes or no. If you've never done anything to the home, or if you've painted over it, you may not know of any lead paint. That is a disclosure that you have to disclose, yes, I am aware of it, or no, I am not aware of it. As we said, asbestos is another one that we want to take care of, and another too. So there's a lot that you can do to a home, but in the end, pricing the home right is going to dictate if that is going to sell quickly or not. Many homeowners are unrealistic. If you purchased your home during the height of the market, the likelihood of ever getting that money back today, slim. Because the height of the market, we've never come back to that level. If you purchased your home 30 years ago, you should be able to sell it at a decent price if you've maintained it. But it doesn't matter what you think it may be worth, it matters what is selling around you. And a good realtor will sit down with you and show you, look, this is your home here with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. You have 1 acre property. This is one home, 3 bedroom, 2 baths, same style. It's a, let's say, it's a ranch. On a 1 acre property, this sold for $300,000. Then there's another one down the road there that sold for $350,000. And then there's a third one here that sold for $299,000. So now guess what your home is worth? $300,000. So it really matters what has sold in your area to dictate what your home is worth. It really doesn't matter that. And if that house is priced right, you may have multiple offers. You may even be able to bring that price up. Not a guarantee. You may only get 1 offer, or you may get 0 offers. And what I usually like to say is, pricing that home right. So, what is your level of comfort? Let's say you're from Ridgewood or Hoboken, right? The median home is valued around $700,000 in Ridgewood or Hoboken, Allendale at $680, Paramus it's $540, Midland Park it's $450. Let's just take a median price of $500,000. In the area that we live, it's $500,000. Okay. So costs for closing, costs for listing, costs for moving, and everything else. I usually say, to be very generous, take 10% off the top. So now we're eliminating $50,000. Right there, gone. So now you're getting $450,000. Now, what mortgage do you still have on the home? Let's say it's $200,000. Right? So now we're down to, can I do math? $350, right? We're down to $350. Okay. Now, $250. Yeah, I can't do math, right? I thought I was doing it wrong. $250. So, all right. And now let's take another $10,000 off, or 10% off, for things that could go wrong at closing. And I like to do this ahead of the game, because if it doesn't get taken off, you'll be ever so happy, right? But if it does get taken off, you're going to be upset that you're not making money with it. So basically, we're coming down to $200,000 is going to be what you're going to walk away with in your pocket at the point of sale. Are you comfortable? And that's only you can answer that. Nobody else can. So sometimes selling may not be the right option. Because sometimes selling is like $200,000, what's that going to get me? Where am I moving to? Do I want to take out another mortgage? Is it going to be more expensive? Can I even do that? So I think those are questions that you need to ask yourself before you put your home on the market. Think, yeah, $200,000 is great. I can buy a home in Florida. That's where I'm going. And I don't even have to take a mortgage, and I can live off my savings for otherwise, or my retirement money, whatever it is. This is cool. This is what I want. Or it may be, you know what? It doesn't make sense to sell it. I'm better off staying here and figuring out other ways to stay in my home. And I know we'll talk about that. So it's really important to know your numbers and to have an honest conversation with your realtor, with your mortgage bank, with an attorney, whoever that may be, to understand what is it going to be that entails for you to sell this home. And are my expectations realistic? Because I think that's the biggest thing that we often live in doubt. You know, I've met so many clients over the years, but my house is worth $800,000. That's how much I bought for it. That's how much I want for it. That's great that you think that. But right now the market's dictating $400,000. I can put it on the market for $800,000. Am I going to sell it for $800,000? Absolutely not. You know what's going to happen over the next couple of months? I'm going to keep coming back to you and saying, "Oh, I got an offer for $452,000. Oh, I got an offer for $380,000." And eventually, if you really need to sell, your expectations are going to be coming down. And it's going to be painful coming down. Okay, it's not going to be an easy, oh, this is a couple $1,000, who cares? It's like, I wanted so much. And I don't like when clients have to go through that. That's not fair to them. So again, are you comfortable with that or not? Now, during an actual sale, what happens? Number one, clean up your home. We do not want doing laundry line. Okay. Having clothes on the clothes lying downstairs that is drying, not a pretty picture. Anything that is lying around that's private should be removed. So don't leave a checkbook lying out, or whatever it may be, private stuff. That's never a good idea. Jewelry should be put away. All of that. Decluttering we've talked about many times last time. Pets. If you have pets, and many people do, either take that pet with you each time, or have a crate or a place that pet can be, and make sure you change the litter box of the pets before somebody uses it. It's just a huge turn off to come to home when everything smells like animal. Good thing is using air freshener. Get those plugins in every room. But please use a very decent smell like fresh linen or citrus smells. We don't want that floral rose smell that you walk in like, oh my gosh, who smoked the bottle of perfume in my room, right? Turn on all the lights. It's very important that your house looks light and airy. Obviously, you must remove yourself. It is never a good idea for a homeowner to be home when people are going through their home. Any person who comes through your home will be accompanied by a realtor. They're never allowed to be in your home without. The realtor will be with them to walk them through and show them what's going on, what isn't usual. They won't leave them just wandering around alone. That's not done. But if a homeowner is there, it makes the buyer uncomfortable because then they can't speak freely. Oh yeah, that's a really ugly toilet there. Oh my gosh, what were they thinking with this closet? This really doesn't work. Why are there no lamps in the dining room? That doesn't work. You're just standing there as a homeowner trying to figure this out. What you've loved in your no light in the ceiling dining room may not work for someone else, but it's okay. It doesn't reflect that you're not living well. It reflects that other people have different opinions. That's who it is. And then as we talked about the pricing, what do you want to do? How much work do you want to put into it? What are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? Some people really like to stage their home. Some people don't. And I think you've done staging, right?
Well, Mariella touched on it a little bit.
Okay. So for staging, it's a great option if you're not going to live in the home. But if you're living in the home and you want to stage, just remember for the next 3 or 4 months, you're living with somebody else's furniture. Possibly. Staging can be done very little. And any good realtor will help you, or a staging company will help you say, let's remove these pictures here and let's repaint that wall because those pictures have been hanging for 20 years and now you've got those little squares there where a picture is still there when the picture is gone, right? You know what, let's do this, let's move this couch over here, and let's put this couch in storage. Those little things, that can be done. But if you really want to modernize it, and you're going to get a staging company to come in, that's a great idea too, if you're comfortable. Again, I really think every homeowner has to understand, what do I want, what am I comfortable with? And don't let anybody talk you into something you're not comfortable doing. This is your home. You need to still live in it. And if you want to live there comfortably, you need to decide, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Can you be guided through the process to maybe make certain changes? Absolutely. And that's a good thing, and that's why you hire professionals to do that. But don't ever get into the point where you're not in your comfort zone anymore the last 6 months of being in your home. Closings usually take anywhere between, 30 is a short amount, 30 and 90 days. So from once you've got actually a contract signed, it's been through attorney review, everything is done. In New Jersey, it's anywhere between 30 and 90 days. Depending on how quickly the mortgage comes through from the time that you're looking at, depending on how quickly you want to move out. And there's so many little steps that kind of determine that amount of time. So that's about all I have. Any questions?
How often do you see contingencies in the contract? Contingency on sale of your existing house?
Quite frequently. Many people have to sell to be able to buy. And because there's very few bridge loans anymore that are really workable, many people will say, I will purchase this house if I can sell mine, especially if they're upgrading. That can happen, or moving from one area to another. Now, some people do, and this is a good thing that's coming in more and more, short-term rentals. So there's that option to sell your house first, go into a short-term rental for a couple of months, and then you have enough time to find the home you're looking for. But yes, there are contingencies and they do happen. That people, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's a one-on-one situation. Sometimes
It makes you look less attractive if somebody else is willing to do it without a contingency.
It can, but if there's a buyer there that really wants your home, they'll work with you. It's all about finding that right buyer, right? So it really depends on what the contingency is, how long. Do you already have somebody who may want to, or do you already have a place where you may want, whatever it is, there's just so many different ways to look at it.
What is your position and thoughts on seller financing?
I kind of don't want to have a position on that. I want the seller to decide that. I think that's a very personal choice. And I really think every seller should, have the option and know about it. But is that something they should do or not do? It depends. I mean, again, I hate to be the one who tells me, you got to do this. It's much more like, here are your options. Which smorgasbord do you want? Kind of thing.
Sibylla, thank you so much. And now I'm going to introduce my friend and colleague, Aileen Rabizadeh. Aileen is an aging population advocate. She is also an integral part of Grand Family Planning. There would be no Grand Family Planning without Aileen. So, and she's going to talk about ways that you can stay in your home if that's what you want. So, just a second, let me help her with her microphone.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hey, good morning. Do we have any veterans here? Just curious. Thank you for listening to me today. I am an elder care consultant, care manager, aging population specialist. There's many names for what I do today. But I just want to tell you briefly on how I got to this point. I used to manage as VP of Marketing and Sales of a dementia care facility. And then from there, I also did some operations. So I know the internal situations that happen in facilities, and what made me decide to become a care manager and an advocate is because I realized by holding that position that being in a healthcare facility or having a home care provider is really a sales position. So it's in the sense that people who are selling you their product, they're marketing to those that are in need and in an emotional situation. So when you're in that emotional situation as a buyer and you're not really acting in your best interests or the best interests of your loved one, and it's difficult to see the promises that should be delivered, right? So you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with aging, you're dealing with feelings, and then you don't really see what's going on on a daily basis, and you really don't know what to ask for because you've never, mom and dad, never been in that situation, nor have you. So it's a weird situation. So while I was doing that piece at a management level, my main concern were two things. One was the financial component, and two was the psychosocial, emotional component. Okay? So with that being said, the grand question today is, should I move or should I stay? Right? Should mom move or should she stay? Whichever way. That's a very, again, emotional question. As adults, when your child is born, you plan on their name. You even try to plan on their gender nowadays. You can do that. You plan on your religious ceremonies for them. Then you plan on sweet 16s. And then you plan for college. And then you plan for the grand marriage, wedding. You plan the education. We plan. But then when they ask you, you've done your job, you've planned your plans. Or even as a single person, you plan and you plan. But you never, I find, plan to age. That's a no-no topic. Oh, I have my 401k, you know, I have this, I have that. What is your plan? How do you want this to play out? You push it, you procrastinate. It's a difficult question to ask. And it's a difficult conversation to bring out into the open. And there's also cultural issues that are combined with that question. So you really have to look at it and start talking about it. And it's never too early to talk about it. I talk to my kids about it now when I'm 48 years old. I'm constantly letting them know, this is what I want, this is how it should be. Because I want them to know and be a part of that. Especially if you get to a point where you can't express what your wishes are. And you can't tell them how your past history was. Because there's certain things we keep private. So you have to decide now or decide with your parents on how that conversation should flow. A lot of families have family dynamics that come into play, so it makes it even more difficult to bring up that conversation. So a lot of times I'm brought in as a mediator on how to bring this up, or if there are issues. Now we have a lot of issues with step-parents, multiple old marriages that come into play. And then there's money that's been promised that comes into play. And these questions make it difficult to come to a conclusion on how you would like to age, right? So do I stay or do I go? The most important thing is to plan, have the conversation. Once having the conversation, look at who you're having this conversation with you. Who is going to represent you? Is it going to be your spouse? Is it going to be your sister? Is it going to be your child? Is it going to be a close friend? Who is going to be there for you in that event? So start thinking about that. Because who you may think you want to designate may not be the right person. You know, I can give you an example. I trust and love my husband dearly and want him to be a part of that process, but I've already designated my brother to make medical decisions for me. Because I know he knows what I want. So you have to look at who's going to decide for you medically, right? And then you can say, well, you know, I'm 50 years old. I don't plan on getting so sick when I need someone to make that decision. Never, ever wait. So you have someone making those medical decisions, right? That's where we're planning. We have power of attorney now we're looking at. So now we're looking at medical. I'm sure you had an attorney.
Yes, Steve.
So we're looking at Steve.
Steve's right up.
Okay, great job. Okay, so you're looking at medical, right? So that's where they're going to make medical decisions. It can be as simple as even talking with you without a medical procedure and making that decision. You don't want 5 people. You want 1 and an alternative. Because now you have 5 different opinions, right? You want someone hands-on. And you want them to be local as well in the emergency process. Then you have a financial component. Who is going to write out checks for you and make decisions for you if you become ill financially? You don't want your brother, who you know hates numbers, right? You want a friend that you know is going to make sure everything is flowing, right? You want to get that person on your account. They're your power of attorney. Don't wait for an emergency. Because when financially you have power of attorney and there's an emergency, that power of attorney has to fax in their paperwork, prove that you're incapacitated or ill, before the bank will even look at you. And they're like, the nursing home or the rehab is looking at, I need a check now for them to be discharged from the hospital to a rehab. And you're lying in a bed. And no one knows where your checks are. No one knows what your bank is. Nightmare, right? So we want to go. We want someone medically. We want someone financially. A lot of times that's the same person. And that's a better idea. But just in case you can't get that, you want to have medical, you want financial, right? Breaking it down. You also, with your medical person, you want to be as honest as possible with them. You should be. You should feel that comfortable and say to them, I want you to know my medical history. Everything and everything. Because when HIPAA comes along and you're in a position where they have to administer medications or something to you, that could cause another issue. So you want to tell your designated medical power of attorney, you know what? I'm allergic severely to penicillin. I know it's on the chart, but now I'm going to a different hospital. They don't know that. You want them to know your medical history. That's so important, I cannot tell you. Because when all these medical people are on top of you, no one knows anything, they're just fly by. They want to save your life. And that can complicate things. If you have early onset dementia or any kind of memory problems and you can't speak for yourself, I cannot tell you how important it is to have someone speaking in your behalf. Once that diagnosis of dementia comes in place, if you do not have a power of attorney in place, the person you designate now has to go through guardianship. Nightmare and big time money, depending on the order you go with. And also the hassle of getting 2 doctors to say that yes, indeed, you have dementia. Right? So medical and then financial, very important. So we're planning, right? Now we're talking about, okay, I'm ready to go. Well, guess what happens? I'm ready to have this conversation about moving or staying, right? And we'll use mom as an example. Mom has a stroke, we send her to Valley Hospital, and now we know she cannot go home. I'm medical power of attorney, everything's great medically. I call it my brother financially. Well, I don't know if mom can go home because the house is cluttered, and guess what? An aide does not have to be hired into your home if the home isn't livable. So that means if the house is dirty or cluttered, it's very difficult to get a live-in aide, right? When that live-in aide, remember when I started off with sales and money? When that industry comes in, that healthcare provider steps into your door, the dollar signs are starting to roll. So they walk in and say, dirty house, clutter, there's the dog, ooh, there's the stairs, where's the aide going to stay? Oh boy, there's the mattress, there's no mattress. So a price that should be hourly has now went from a going rate of $200 in Bergen County to about $250. Why? Because you didn't plan. You didn't declutter, you didn't get the house clean, you didn't speak. Now, you, as the medical provider of power of attorney, you're like, oh my God, when can you start? Just come home today. Now you don't care about the $250 anymore, or whatever it is, because mom has to go home. And you have to understand that now things aren't like they used to. When someone's in a hospital, they examine you, and they're determining whether they admit you. If they admit you, then you can go on to subacute rehab. But you have to stay a certain amount of hours and a certain amount of days. You can't go from emergency room to subacute. Subacute is rehabilitation. Mom had a stroke, now she's going, I say, okay, well, they said now she is appropriate for subacute, so I'm going to forget about that home care provider. Now she's going to a rehab, rehabilitation, nursing home, long-term care. So now, how am I going to pay for this now? Well, this is how you're going to pay for it. Medicare will cover a certain amount of days based on the diagnosis. It could be about 120 days, depending on the diagnosis.
And this is where you guys take note. You need to have a doctor. You need to have a doctor, okay, who knows how to chart the illnesses.
So as we're planning as medical, when we were looking at our medical and we were discussing about our old history with that person we designated, it's very important to have a relationship with your primary doctor. Because your primary doctor knows you, and if your power of attorney has to call and ask questions or tell your doctor that now she's in the hospital, and he can immediately call the emergency room and let them know that's my patient. So you're starting the process. They're charting as they go along. And now he's decided, your primary doctor, that you will go to a rehab. Rehab is a subacute, which is a long-term care facility. It's also known as a nursing home. You go for a period of time while you're rehabilitating through a stroke, let's say, or a heart attack or a fall. Medicare covers 80% to about 120 days based on the diagnosis and based on the charting of the medical team. Supporting, yes, this person needs to be here rehabilitated.
If I just want to quick, Aileen and I have had some really interesting cases over the course of this last year because of clients who did not have their charts done appropriately by a doctor, and these people were either being thrown out after a week or 2 weeks or denied, or we had one client who was an unsafe discharge. They were going to release her to a third floor walk-up apartment that was filthy, cluttered, and completely inappropriate for her care. They didn't care.
They don't care. They absolutely don't care. When they say this to the social worker, discharge this person now, you will get a phone call. Mom's going home in 15 hours max, if you're lucky. And now you don't have any, you're at work, you're with your kids or whatever, now you have to figure this out because they need it. I had a client where they put on a dog-alone cat back home with dementia.
Is that from the subacute system or from a hospital or both?
From a subacute.
It could be from both. It could be from the hospital, and it also could be from subacute. Oh, you're ready, your documentation states you're better. You don't need subacute anymore, so now you're going home. Or whoever.
Or privately paid.
Or private pay. So you're at 120 days at a subacute, let's say, nursing home, long-term care facility, rehabilitation, whatever you want to call it. 80% is picked up by Medicare, 20% by a secondary. Not everybody has their secondary insurance. So it's important to decide. A lot of families say, well, mom's not going to get sick. Well, Medicare, they pay everything. They do not pay everything. Based on your diagnosis determines what type of secondary insurance you should get. And there are actual brokers that can guide you through that. Now is open enrollment.
Yes, and you remember a few weeks ago, Mark Spire was here, and those are the kinds of questions that need to be addressed when you decide which type of Medicare coverage you select.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because Medicare pays 80%, you have your secondary insurance, and then you have your pharmacy plan. So Medicare, does not cover everything. So you have to look at your pharmacy plan and say, okay, well, mom's now had a stroke, so she's on medications for the stroke, and now they're saying she has some dementia. So now she's on dementia medications. Dementia medications are the most expensive medications out there. And no, your medical pharmacy plan does not cover it entirely.
Yeah, my mom was on Exelon patch, and it was like over $200 a month after Medicare. So yeah, it's pricey stuff.
So that goes with, should I stay or should I go? We're planning all this, right? So I'm just giving you the scenario of emergency. But if we planned all this, that's one thing to check off. Okay, we're good, right? We're so good. Everything's going fine. Now mom's in rehab, right? And they're calling me up and they're saying, guess what? Mom refuses. She doesn't want to walk anymore. She hates the PT person. She's screaming and yelling. She won't walk. She only walks when you come. So now I run to the nursing home and I tell my mom, you better get up from that chair. You need PT. Because then once they document that you are not the patient trying to be compliant with physical therapy, they're going to jot down that it's not appropriate for you, discharge. So you want to use as many days as you possibly can, right? And at the same time, we're planning, where's mom going? Is she going home? She's going to a facility. Well, I can help mom with that decision because she's told me what she's wanting. And I know exactly what she wants, and she started planning them so I can follow her wishes.
What happens after the 120 days?
What happens after the 120 days is you pay privately. You start paying privately, and you're looking at anywhere. Remember, we said this is a sales position, this situation, right? So, you know, when you went into that rehab, they wanted financial verification, right? So you gave everything about mom. They know everything, how much the house is worth, how much of a mortgage is paid off. You know, dad had property and it knows everything. They're calculating the days that you're going to stay there, right? And they're hoping that you're going to spend down your money there so that you can become a Medicaid resident.
And they like Medicaid because they know they're going to get paid.
So you have to be careful what you're disclosing as the community. Because your power of attorney, they, meaning the nursing home, or the home care provider, they don't have to know everything. They just really need to know how to best care for your loved one. And unless you're financial or you have a financial power of attorney, until you discuss and have a plan in place, don't start thinking you have time for them to stay there and rehab and decide what's going to happen. You should already have a plan and idea of what's going to happen. So I already know mom's going home. So I say, okay, no problem. I get a home care provider. I decluttered the house. I have food in the house. I got rid of the cat. Everything's good. But I know now that mom can't afford. The house is paid off, but she really wanted to stay home, and she can't afford to. So I call up my buddy Liz, and we try to apply for the first mortgage. So she can go into that. So that's a tool that I'm going to tap into because I know the house is paid off on, and she can tap into that. And along the way of planning, I've kept that house in tip-top shape because I knew that was something I may have to tap into. Dad wasn't a vet, so I can't tap into services from the veteran entitlements, and that's a whole other topic.
Does the VA cover spouses?
The Veterans Administration does cover spouses, depending up to how much is determined by your financials. So what I say to all my families as soon as I come on as the care manager and I do the assessment, I ask all these questions, and one of those questions are, who is a veteran in the family? Your husband or yourself? And then I tell the husband immediately, get your discharge papers, get everything in order. Go to the VA, get yourself in the system. So you too go see the doctors, the psychiatrists, get into the system. Because if we have to trigger entitlements, I'm not going to know what you're entitled to. They will know and decide that.
Do you ever have a situation, and I'll speak loud, so do you ever have a situation where the person, the veteran, can't find their discharge papers?
Yeah.
Do they?
All the time.
Really?
I have those problems all the time. And I am very fortunate that being in the industry for so long, I have many, many good friends. So I pick up the phone and I call my buddy and say, listen, this is what I have. They're not in the system. Could you remember HIPAA? I have them sign off waivers where I could speak in their behalf, put in the date of birth, the time of service, and I start the process. But it happens all the time. I just had a World War II vet, 96 years old, and it's quite difficult, but they had it, but it's just, staying on the phone, waiting and waiting and waiting is a nightmare. So you want to have all these things in place. We want to tap into the VA system as much as possible because it's money that you have earned as a veteran, and you don't know that because you're not going to tell you.
And there is a program called Veterans Aid and Attendance that a lot of people know nothing about. And unless they know to ask the question, they're not going to find out about it. But it's a benefit that can bring in around $2,000 a month to care for you in your home.
Sometimes even more, depending on how long you've been enlisted. If there were injuries, there's like a tally you have to, score. And the spouse is also entitled to it. So
Yes.
just certain amounts.
Yes.
Okay?
And
Veterans
aid and attendance.
And attendance.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's the name of the program. And also and spouses are also entitled to stay in veterans' homes,
Right.
which is something that people don't
Or an
realize.
allotment per month, but there's waiting lists. So that's why I said if your spouse is a veteran, you do not get to the veteran system as soon as possible.
Do they have wings in the VA for just for women, or do they put them in with the men? How does that?
Well, the state regulation is you can't commingle populations. The only way a man and a woman can stay in a room together is if they're married. Right.
Yeah.
But that's another, now with the whole, I'm a big advocate for the LGBTQ community, and that's another whole subject, with aging in a facility and rights. So, when I come in, a lot of time the facility, like, she comes, because I will fight to the end to get what you deserve. So, yeah.
So do you think that people should be working with you well before any of this has happened?
Absolutely, because what I'm going to do is hold your hand and guide you. There's no problems, but I can quickly tell you this is what you need to do. We have a couple cases like that where mom and dad are in early onset dementia, but they're fine. They still can make their needs known. So we're putting everything in place, down to the funeral plans. So that when that happens, why should the family has suffered enough? Because when you have dementia, I always tell my families, the hardest part, and Tracy, you know this, the hardest part about dementia is your family member has passed a long time ago. And who you see now is not the person you know. They're gone. You've been mourning them. And the hardest thing is every time you've been mourning them the whole time, you're reminded that they're still here, but they're not really here.
And you get to mourn them over and over and over again. The many different versions of them.
Right. So that's why we start now. We start the process now. We look, and it's good because when I do the financial piece of saying what you could be entitled to, and now they're all worried that they may not have the money, that's when I go into veterans, and that's when I say, well, don't worry. Let's get the house ready. Let's connect with Liz. Let's do the reverse mortgage. Or let's put the house up for sale because you want to move in with your niece who has room for you. We want to set that up. So we're going to be proactive, and now we're not running on emergency mode, so we're actually following the wishes of the person.
And if there's a possibility that there's Medicaid in your future, which can happen.
Right, we're talking about that as well.
Yeah, you just starting to gather the data. Yeah, get that information together, set aside. So when the day does come, you don't have to be panicked because the groundwork has been set. Right? Now you may never need that, but at least if the paperwork is set aside, then it's a lot easier to get it going for everyone. You don't want to be doing it in crisis.
Do you folks handle the Medicaid paperwork also?
We have someone, I can do Medicaid applications, but I don't want to.
Antoinette, who was here for the Medi-What session, she's our Medicaid gal.
Yeah.
And she does an amazing job.
She's so cool, calm, and collective, and when she's on the phone troubleshooting, she just likes to swing on the button. Unlike me, I start losing my mind and start asking the questions over and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah, and she's on a first name basis with a lot of the people who work at the Medicaid offices. She's amazing. Antoinette Kochkar, she was here at the second session with Mark. Yeah, so she's done things for clients that are just.
For Medicaid, I want to make very clear that Medicaid does not pay for 24-hour living support. They only pay for a certain amount of hours per day.
That's the community Medicaid.
Yes. And it's not 7 days a week either. So that means you have to be ready to supplement the other hours in the home. So that, again, this is part of planning. That should happen. If you should plan that they want to go to an assisted living, you have to make sure that you realize that in an assisted living, You pay rent, like an apartment, but that does not include your daily services. So you go into the grand assisted living and you're like, oh, this is wonderful. I want mom to be here. She's going to be very happy. They have a popcorn machine. They have a live piano on the side. Everything is wonderful. Well, guess what? It may be $5,000 a day for a studio apartment. A month? All right, a month. We're getting there. A month, per month. And then what happens is, as you need care, how many medicines do you take per day? How many showers would you like? Your laundry. That may or may not include meals. May include one meal. You got to pick the meal plan. It's like going to college all over again. And then at the end of the month, you're like, holy cow, my bill is $8,500 a month. And mom's still working. She's still not needing help going to the bathroom. She's not getting up in the middle of the night, right? So, start planning. It's going to go up, right? Then you're going to say, well, mom has 3 months left, and I hope to apply for Medicaid. We don't accept Medicaid. So now you have to find a Medicaid facility that will accept her. But guess what? Do they really want her? You're not spending down in their building. So why should we take mom when she has no money and you want her to go by on Medicaid? They prefer the client who spends their money in the building prior to giving them Medicaid. Do we set an allotment aside if we have it and spend down in the building that we like?
That's something that a lot of people don't realize. Every nursing home, regardless of its of its stature, must set aside 10% of their beds for Medicaid.
At least 10.
10%, yeah. So you can, if you start off in the creme de la creme, privately paying, and you're running out of money, then you can get a Medicaid bed in that facility. But as
if they have Medicaid, some buildings, some rises don't. So these are questions that we're asking ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 10%.
Depending, some buildings don't have to, but nursing homes have to have 10% Medicaid.
Yeah, and there's a difference between a nursing home and assisted living. Yeah, there are a number of different kinds of terminologies.
Right.
Like, for instance, my mom lived in a group home. Okay, now, what's a group home? Well, a group home is a type of facility where people receive custodial care. They don't necessarily have dementia, right?
No.
But for people with dementia, it's a good level of care because you do get a high level of custodial intervention. So, and people don't, I didn't know what a group home was until I met Aileen. And I had a lot of difficulty finding the right place for my mom because she was psychotic, she was violent, she'd gotten ejected from her rehab for threatening people with knives. And that was when I met Aileen because I didn't know what I was going to do with my geriatric delinquent, right? So, it's each facility has its profile and their specialties and what they are able to take on. And a lot of places, even a lot of dementia places, don't want to take in someone who's violent.
Now, remember when I went in the beginning, I said it is a sales business, right? You want to make sure they're delivering these promises if you decide to go the assisted living nursing home route. So you want to say, what do you do with a client who has dementia and is sweet as ever, and now all of a sudden she's running around threatening to kill people? What do you do? How do you handle that? Is my rate going to increase? So when I said that the facilities are helping you, but they're helping you based on your emotion. Because you're just like, oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. But now thank you by delivering the promise. What did you promise? Pull out that agreement and make sure that they promised and that they're delivering it. Because you have to remember, mom and dad can't speak. They can be perfectly fine mentally, but if you are not one to speak for yourself, they're not going to hear you. because there's so much going on. It's like that lost student in the classroom. I always tell families, you know, that shy one who won't raise their hand and say, you know, I don't understand this material, right? So you always have to be prepared to speak and to encourage and to talk, and that takes a lot of time and energy and work.
You have to pre-plan,
Yes.
pre-plan for nursing, what I in assisted living.
You can pre-plan easily if you have long-term care insurance, because you already know what the long-term care policy is allotted per day. But if you don't have nursing home, if you don't have that, you still can pre-plan. And that's where we go back to what are your wishes. You may not want to be in nursing home. You may want to be home, and that's a possibility. But remember, when you're home, right, you're paying about $7,000 to $8,000 in Bergen County, so it's really more money. About 7 to 9, I want to say, depending on your diagnosis and your disability, right? But that doesn't include your mortgage if you have one, your taxes if you still, you know, if you're living in the home, your phone, your expenses, which Liz will go into, right? Your food for the caregiver. Are you still, is who's going to drive this person to the doctor? Who's going to pick up their medication? So those are things you have to look at. So what I do is more like a village mobile care. So when I look at the big picture and I say, okay, you want mom to be at home? This is what we have to manage and look at so they can stay in home. You know, I may go as far as getting enough food in the house, you know, that can remain in the house for a month if we have snow. Like right before now, I'm prepping all my families by getting salt, getting shovels out, light, you know, everything I can have with aid to make sure that they don't have to evacuate in the event of losing power or a snowstorm. Making sure that I have my reliable people shoveling. You know, it's all planning. Because if I call someone to shovel out Margaret and Joseph, what I had to do last year, they wanted to charge me all this money to shovel them out. So thank God I have a 21-year-old son, and I said, get out there and have them. I'm glad you just finished doing that over. So, you know, you have to plan. So if you want to be at home, that could be a possibility. You have to look at the financial. The financial piece is the biggest part. Because if you have the money, you can do whatever you want. If you don't, I don't want you to feel that there aren't any choices and possibilities. You always have a choice. But you can't make a choice if you don't have the information. And it's okay not to have it. I have it only because I've done it for so long. And I'm very nosy when it comes to that and my clients. I'm in there. I'm hands-on. I had a resident that they didn't shower for 2 months because he refused. Refused. I was so angry, I went in there and said, I bet you a month's rent he will not refuse me. Sure enough, we showered together. You know, I had these funny bones, chocolate covered with peanuts, butter in there. We went in the shower, stripped. He was eating his peanut butter, whatever, ate it. Then I handed him a milkshake from McDonald's, showered head to toe. No problem. Right? So it's all depending on what you want, what your choices are, but talk about it. It's never too early to talk about it. All my friends are in their early 50s, we're talking about it. We're talking about it now, and it's scary for us because we're in a generation where our parents don't have that money for an inheritance anymore. We're paying for our parents now. It's now flipped. So now we're looking at college for our kids and also supplementing for mom and dad. You know? So that's why we talk about it and we plan and we look at everything and we look at what the choices are. Do we stay or do we go? You can make the right choice if you start planning and having a conversation.
Questions? Okay, Aileen, thank you so much. Okay. Yes.
I shouldn't go telling people that I go in showers.
Yeah. Can we edit that? Oh man.
shows your Karen.
Nobody put a video?
Do I have to turn something on?
No, you're good. Just get, okay. So, I'm now going to introduce Liz Ciccone, and, I'm going to show the video first.
After.
Okay.
We'll end it.
Alrighty. Sounds good.
Hi, everyone. My name is Liz Ciccone. I am a reverse mortgage specialist, meaning that I'm a mortgage loan officer, but I only specialize in reverse mortgage. And my NMLS, just for the official, is 781623. We all have identifiers with the NMLS. And I'm with Reverse Mortgage Funding, who we are a direct lender. And what I'm going to be talking today is going to be very I'm going to be very brief, and so I want to, my philosophy is education, and all of my borrowers are very different. So I really encourage people to meet with me, have conversations with me one-on-one, because everyone's situation is so different. So when you're dealing with a reverse mortgage, is the reverse mortgage right for me? The reverse mortgage is not right for everyone, and that's why it's really good to discuss your particular situation. Do you qualify? Not everyone will qualify for a reverse mortgage. What are the basic requirements? And I wanted to let you know some of those. The first is you have to be 62 or older. One of your spouses needs to be 62 or older. And that qualifies you. Now you can do one for somebody who's not 62, if the other spouse is, but I always recommend you can wait till both spouses are 62 or older. Reverse mortgage is actually a loan against the equity of the house. It needs to be your primary residence. You have to have equity in the home. You need to be 62 again. And you have to own enough money and equity in the home to be able to pay off the reverse mortgage. So, or to pay off other loans. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail here. However, I wanted to share with you some things. The reverse mortgage can be used to supplement your retirement income. You can have a steady stream of income coming. You can pay off an existing mortgage. I work with a lot of clients who do have a mortgage and they're struggling on a monthly basis. So they use the reverse mortgage actually to pay off their existing mortgage. So the payments are no longer required. The other thing that you can do is set up a home equity loan. And a home equity loan in reverse mortgage gives you a pile of funds of money to be able to actually work with. The other thing with the reverse is that you can purchase a new home. And a lot of people will downsize from their existing home, and it's one of the most popular areas that are growing right now. Purchasing a new home and downsizing from the large home. There's a lot of different ways that you can use reverse mortgage. Setting up those funds for a rainy day. There's a lot of different ways. What I decide, and I encourage you again, it's really important if you want to know more to speak with me on a one-on-one basis because your situations might be different. But it can be a lifesaver for some people. It's not right for everyone. Not everyone will qualify. So there's been a lot of changes in the last several years done through the government, through the FHA, that actually put in protections to protect the borrower. And those have been very well received. And so what I decided to do is bring to you a video today. And this is a video using the reverse mortgage as a line of credit. Again, this is just one way that you can use reverse mortgage. But again, it can be a lifesaver for some people. When you're looking for funds, and what we're discussing today, and how can I take care of one? Where am I going to get some funds that I need? It's not a bottomless pit. And I like to let people know that. And there are pros and cons. That is what I review with you. What are the pros and cons? Is it right for you? So what I decided to do is bring a video, and this is what you're going to be seeing is the reverse mortgage as a line of credit. Thank you.
So, I have to. Oh, Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
Putting together the pieces of a retirement plan traditionally consists of Social Security, personal savings, and pensions or retirement funds. Today, more and more retirees are adding another important piece to their well-structured retirement plan: the equity in their home. In fact, older American homeowners have accumulated almost $6 trillion in total home equity, representing over 80% of their overall net worth. There's no question that a home equity line of credit is an important piece of a comprehensive retirement plan, but not all home equity line of credit loans are the same. If you are 62 years or older, here's some good news. You may be eligible for a home equity line of credit with enhanced benefits. It's called a reverse mortgage line of credit loan from Reverse Mortgage Funding. Nearly 1 million savvy Americans have taken advantage of the significant benefits of a reverse mortgage, and that number continues to grow. And there are several major benefits of a reverse mortgage line of credit from Reverse Mortgage Funding. The primary benefit is flexible payment options. A reverse mortgage line of credit gives you more flexibility and control of your finances than a traditional home equity line of credit, and here's why. With a home equity line of credit, once you start to draw down on your line of credit, you're required to make regular payments, which increase as you draw additional funds month after month. For a while, that payment may be interest only. But after a set period of time, you'll have to start paying back the principal as well, which will make your monthly payments substantially higher until your loan is settled. With a reverse mortgage, you have a flexible payment option, and that means you can choose to pay as little or as much as you like each month for as long as you live in your home. If you'd like to pay down the principal and interest of your reverse mortgage early, feel free to make monthly payments of any amount you'd like, with no prepayment penalties. Or use the benefit of a reverse mortgage line of credit and take advantage of the flexibility to make no monthly payments at all. That's right, no monthly payments at all. Of course, as with any home secured loan, you'll still be responsible for paying property taxes, homeowners insurance, any association fees, and maintaining your home in good shape. The bottom line is that a reverse mortgage line of credit from Reverse Mortgage Funding puts you in control of your monthly payments, allowing you the flexibility to manage your cash flow. And there are even more benefits, like the line of credit growth feature. Once you secure a traditional home equity line of credit, the total amount you can borrow is set at the time of the signing of your loan. But with a reverse mortgage line of credit loan, the unused portion of your credit line actually grows over time, independent of your home's value. That means that the less you take up front, the more you'll be able to borrow later. As long as you meet your loan obligations, your reverse mortgage line of credit can't be reduced or revoked by the lender. For even more flexibility, you can choose to convert the line of credit into regular monthly installments at any time in the future. This is a great feature for funding home health care or the need for consistent monthly cash flow. And there's more. As opposed to a home equity line of credit, a reverse mortgage has something called a non-recourse feature. This ensures that you'll never owe more than your home's worth. And the last big benefit? You can enjoy the security of knowing your reverse mortgage is insured by the Federal Housing Administration. Flexible payments, credit growth, payout options, non-recourse, security. A reverse mortgage line of credit all builds to one big benefit: control over your finances. Let Reverse Mortgage Funding give you all the details and show you how a reverse mortgage line of credit loan could be the right choice for you.
That's it? Yep.
I'm not really. Anybody that saw that, so we're not.
No, we are on. Okay. Are you all right?
So,
Okay. All right. So,
Must be to go
it's really good there. And that's why I really encourage people to speak individually. You have a mortgage insurance premium for the government. That's one of the costs. Depending on who you're working with the lender, there's going to be what's called an origination cost, and that's the cost actually to the loan originator or if you're working with a broker. That's going to vary from company to company. And then there are normal closing costs that you have for closing a loan. And that's going to be pretty consistent. You'll see that pretty consistent. Certain fees are absolutely can't vary by lender to lender. And again, it's going to depend by what you're looking for, because different variations of the loan will be able to be done differently, and perhaps it's going to end up with different price points. Okay. So I'm happy to meet with you.
The non-recourse component, does that mean that if you're getting monthly payments, then you can have the payments that's greater than the value of your home, if you continue to get those payments?
That is correct. That is correct. And I do encourage people to explore getting reverse when you're 62. There's a really big advantages to setting it in place, not necessarily using it right away, and maybe you'll never use it, but to set that in place so that if the need does arise, you have more equity to be able to possibly use. And the non-recourse means that, yes, you would continue, if you were getting a monthly payment, which is one of the options, you would continue to receive that monthly payment for as long as you remain in the house as your primary residence. Or as long. So if you are leaving the house on a permanent basis, that's when the loan becomes due.
So you can go to nursing.
Not if you're going to be there permanently. So if it's someplace where you're at a rehab for a little while and you expect it to come home, that's not permanent yet. But if the decision had been made to do it permanently, that's when the payments would start. Yes, the object is to keep mom at home and keep people who want to stay in their homes rather than having to. So it's definitely used. A lot of people use it for home care to be able to make payments. And then some people will set it up and never use it. It's just there in the event that you might need it.
And I thought it was important for you guys to hear about reverse mortgage because it's so misunderstood. And it's a product that in the past has been abused, and the legislation around the use of reverse mortgages has changed so significantly that it's really, if you qualify for a reverse mortgage, it's very difficult to misuse it because it's so heavily regulated. So, but we wanted you to know about it because it's such a wonderful option for people. A lot of us have homes, and during our working years, we may be faced with, do I pay my mortgage or do I put money into a 401k? And that's happening more and more. We have a retirement savings crisis in our country right now because so many people have not put money away for retirement, but they may have a home with equity. So once you hit 62, this is it's a wonderful option because as you saw, you will never be charged more than what your home is at. So if you are of the opinion that you've worked very hard with your wife to have to have your home, to live in your home, and you want that to be your source, your resource for your care, it's a really wonderful option. So I think it's something that is worthy of your consideration as a tool. So what'd you think?
I have a question. I just was wondering, what if I had like mom and dad, right? But dad can't handle mom being home. He's higher functioning. So mom goes off to rehab and he decides he wants her to stay there. He could then in fact use the reverse mortgage because he's still at home.
That's correct. It's until the last spouse of his own. Yes, of course. But even if there wasn't, he can still remain with us as long as he pays his taxes and his insurance. It's one of the requirements, and maintains it. So it does give protection for what we refer to as the surviving spouse.
And that's a great point. You know, there are a lot of advantages to being married in retirement because you have more options. Any other questions for any of our speakers?
Sounds very good.
Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad you were able to join us today. I know it's a little chilly, but it's still nice and sunny out. So at least it ain't snowing, right? I mean, was anybody really surprised by the weather today? Not yet. But
I thought you were serious.
no. All right. So, for anybody who, if anything occurs to you, remember that next week's class is Ask the Experts. So, we'll all be back to answer any questions that you might come up with now that you've been able to enjoy our series. So, I want to thank you all very much for coming, and I look forward to seeing you at our last class next week. And bring your questions, take advantage, and look forward to seeing everybody then. All right, and of course, if you have questions in the meantime, anybody wants to get a hold of me, grandfamilyplanning@gmail.com. It's the easiest way, or you can go to the website grandfamilyplanning.com and use the contact form. So thanks so much. Have a great rest of the day and a wonderful weekend and a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching so long.